Hello and welcome to Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel. In the past few days, we have seen a series of rapid moves and statements that could shape the future of the war in Ukraine and NATO's credibility as a deterrence force. This is not just another round of talks, not another round of rhetoric. This is an ultimate game between Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and NATO, with Ukraine caught in the middle, and the clock is really ticking. So if we look at the recent timeline, on August 8th, Medvedev issued warning to Trump. He is specifically accused Trump of playing the ultimatum game with Russia and warned him to remember that Russia is not Israel, whatever that means, or even Iran. Every new ultimatum, again, according to Medvedev, is a step towards a war, not just with Ukraine, but also with the United States itself. So clear escalation, clear aggressive tone from Russian official. Same day, Trump responded by announcing that the movement of U.S. nuclear submarines to appropriate regions, whatever that means, was directed. Yeah, so this is a direct show of force following Medvedev's comment. And here it's important to say that this is probably the first actual response to Russian verbal aggression against NATO countries and the United States. So in the past, our government officials simply ignored all of these aggressive statements by either Putin or his cabinet. As yet another round of escalation on August 9, Russian Foreign Ministry declared the end of its moratorium on deploying medium and short-range missiles, blaming NATO's anti-Russian policy and warning that all opponents will have to reckon with this. Now, this is again a very strong, aggressive statement from Russians. However, it must be said that Russians and Americans for quite some time not exactly following this restriction, and for all practical terms, I don't think this matters in any way. From again military readiness of Russia or United States, we've been not following those agreements, not very precisely. So this is more of a political gesture than actual change to the security situation for either United States or Russia. And then comes August 10, and all of a sudden, Putin signals that he is going to meet with Trump. So clear de-escalation. At the same time, so see, like with on one hand, Putin is de-escalating situation by offering to meet with Trump and offering to halt aggression against Ukraine. But at the same time, he's mocking United States by giving Steve Witkoff Order of Lenin medal, which is obviously going back all the way to Soviet times. And he hands this medal to a former CIA official whose son died fighting for Russia. So again, this is clearly and deliberate mockery of the United States, which should be a signal that Putin is escalating his tone against the United States. And right away after this peace offer, and yes, so Putin, again, I guess August 10, Putin floats this idea of halting the war. So no withdrawal of troops, no formal agreements, which is going to put this war on pause. So stop shooting at each other. And in exchange, he wants all of Eastern Ukraine, meaning Donbass, Lugansk, and Crimea, of course. So all those three regions, he wants official recognition of those territories going to Russia. Immediately, Zelensky rejects this offer. He publicly declines any deal involving the loss of territory. And of course, Zelensky is in a difficult position because right now he is in between of two camps. There are people in Ukraine who want to continue the resistance to Russian aggression, but there's a lot of sentiment that this war is going nowhere and we should agree to any terms. Supposedly, this is heavily exaggerated message coming from Russian propaganda, meaning the actual number of Ukrainians who believe so is significantly less than it may appear. It's hard to say. However, there is a group of people who is unhappy with continuing war, and they rather see Zelensky and the war on whatever conditions, including loss of territory. So yeah, so Zelensky for the coming days is going to be between the rock and the hard place. If we look from an analytical perspective at this deal, Putin offers himself a win-win proposition. That's this particular deal is definitely a win-win for Russia. If this particular deal falls apart because Zelensky rejects it, like he just did, then on one hand, Russia can signal that, hey, they were not against ceasefire, it's Ukrainians who are to blame. Second, Russia is putting out a very, very bold, very, very aggressive proposition. And if NATO country were to agree to that proposal, this would be a huge, huge loss to credibility of entire NATO. So he is one way or another putting out that statement for everyone to see that he is strong and he's in a position to put out a very absurd offer, and people are going to be seriously discussing that, just like we hear this on TV today. So he is a winner from that perspective too. If the deal is accepted, he gets the territory he wants. Obviously, he is able to mock NATO again one more time because now NATO effectively accepts his land grab, both de facto and de jure. So that's a huge win for Russia and huge, huge, huge loss to, again, formal NATO credibility. Obviously, we are de facto allowing Russia to do whatever they want for a very long time, and now we're going to make it de jure. So again, really don't want to see that happen. What can I say? But in either way, NATO's deterrence is further weakened, and either way that's going to play out from this point on, NATO is going to take a hit, and maybe later in this video we'll talk about what NATO can do to improve its situation. Now, from Mr. Trump's point of view, he desperately wants to stop the war, and for him this is a political trap. So if this deal doesn't happen, and most likely it won't, and especially if it falls through after President Trump and Vladimir Putin meet in supposedly Alaska, if that falls through, then once again, Trump is unable to resolve this issue. He continues running in circles, and he would have to go back to this, oh, I thought we had a deal. I thought he likes me. I thought I like him. We had this very good understanding. I like Vladimir, but every time, I go back, he continues to shoot at hospitals and civilian areas, and I don't understand what's going on. So he basically, Trump would have to admit just one more time that he is being run in circles by Putin. If this deal does go through, there's a slim possibility that this deal is going to be signed. I don't see this happening, but if the deal is signed, it's probably even worse for President Trump because this moment is going to be his Chamberlain moment. He is going to step into the same trap Mr. Chamberlain did. He is going to have an illusion of peace that humiliates him and further damages NATO. So the way this deal is proposed, Russia is going to keep their military where they are, and at any point in time, they can decide they're going to continue aggression against Ukraine. And again, this is going to be extremely damaging for NATO, which tells me that Putin is most likely going to take that step. At least there's high probability of this happening. Another reason Zelensky is in a very difficult position is the military situation in Ukraine, and it's very clear that Ukrainians are underfunded. They don't have the money. They don't have enough arms. Russia is able to invest into various technologies, much more money than Ukraine. And let's look at some numbers. Maybe military reality check is in order, because this should really explain why Putin is so bold, why Trump acts the way he is, and then what possible scenarios are ahead of us. So first, Russia is really outproducing the West. Consider that their current production of ballistic missiles is way over 60 a month, and they aiming towards 300 ballistic missiles a month. Just to compare with the production of Patriot interceptors, Lockheed Martin produces north of 500, perhaps 550 or so, Patriot PAC-2 missile interceptors a year, right? Now, to take out one single ballistic missile, you're going to need two interceptor missiles. Just they usually shoot two missiles because one may miss, right? So clearly, we don't have nearly enough interceptors worldwide to stop every potential ballistic missile that Russia can send at Ukraine. Next, Russia is outputting over 1,000 Shahed, or Giran rather, drones a day, and they targeting to reach 2,000 drones a day in the very near future. So again, there's at the moment somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 drones, kamikaze, Shahed or Giran drones a day. They also much more efficient on production of conventional weapons. So Russian 152 millimeter shell costs about $300 each, where NATO's 155 millimeter is about $3,000 to $5,000 in that range. So 10 order more expensive production in NATO countries versus Russia. That's very significant, and of course, we, the United States, were unable to meet the promised amount of produce. We were aiming at 4 million shells a year. We still haven't reached that number. It was first targeted for 2023. Then that target got pushed to 2024. Right now, we're pushing that further to 2025. And something tells me we're not going to meet that expectation this year either. Why? Because we are short on smokeless powder necessary for production of these shells. We simply don't have the production capacity, while Russia, China, and North Korea certainly do. Next thing, Russia versus the United States. In the United States, we are far more expensive on just about everything we produce. Something recently caught my attention. and that was this lovely F-35 helmet that costs $400,000 a piece. Now that's a very impressive piece of technology. I'm sure this helmet is absolutely amazing, but I don't know how scalable this sort of product can be. And again, this is just an example of how expensive the Western technology is to begin with. So when President Trump is asking for peace, this is why. War is very expensive. We can't afford to continue defending Ukraine without going through significant changes in the way we produce this equipment. It's not only about money. That's, of course, if we only look at the legacy weapon stock, which probably where President Trump is looking at the moment. Now, Ukraine, let's talk about Ukraine a little bit. So Ukraine is definitely in a position to stand against Russia. How about it stands against Russia for 3.5 years? And definitely Ukraine has amazing drone technology. And their military and private sector has shown remarkable ingenuity, and Operation Spiderweb alone was definitely a badass operation and definitely caught President Trump's attention. In fact, I believe his recent announcement that the United States is going to be drone dominant country is a direct result of Operation Spiderweb by Ukraine. At the same time, Ukraine is short on soldiers capable of fighting this war. They need rotation. They need significant time off. They cannot stay on the front line forever, and Ukraine doesn't have enough people to properly rotate and give their armed forces proper rest. So that's just one more time in this course why Ukraine is evolving this unmanned aircraft fleet. Drones are going to be very soon powered by AI, and this autonomous fleet is going to replace people. I certainly can see more drones taking support roles where they can deliver, charge, or provide jamming or other services to the unmanned aircraft specifically used for attack. Another thing to point out is frustration among Ukraine supporters. I very often come across people, Ukraine supporters, that putting out statements like, why negotiate with Putin? He's a terrorist, he's a war criminal. US would never negotiate with Hitler. Why do we do that? Why not bring Ukraine into NATO and invoke Article 5? Sounds like a great deal, right? Well, the hard truth is NATO is not the military alliance it used to be. Yes, it is a very powerful, a very capable force that can do a lot of damage to our adversaries. However, this is not the force that many believe. Article 5 has already been tested many times in Lithuania, Poland, and Romania with no formal invocation. By tested, I mean Russians crossed the airspace with those countries, or perhaps conducted some sabotage operations on their territories. So NATO leaders are definitely reluctant to take any sort of measures against Russian aggressions against them, and this is creating a credibility gap that Putin exploits every day. So to recap, we are in a situation where Russia and China and all of our adversaries, they outpacing us in both production of legacy weapons, airplanes, shells, military jets, other military equipment. At the same time, they are far more ahead of us on unmanned aircraft area. They are learning the new drone warfare tactics and strategy, because the obviously Russia is directly involved with that on the battlefield. China and North Korea sending their people not only to help Russia. Obviously, every time you hear about North Korean troops fighting for Russia, this is no charity. Those guys also learning that same skill, that very important skill. They learn to operate drones in real war situation, something that Ukrainians excel at as well, of course, but the NATO countries, they don't have that experience at all. So we really missing on that whole segment of warfare. When President Trump is hesitant to invest in Ukraine and wants to end this war, one of the reasons, perhaps, I don't have a direct line with the president, but perhaps he is not a believer that Ukraine can win this war. He doesn't see how Ukraine can win this war because he's looking at the traditional segment of the warfare. And from that perspective, he is absolutely correct. The West is not able to supply Ukraine. Ukraine is definitely not able to produce that weapon itself. Unfortunately, Ukraine didn't do enough to build their own military production. And seeing that, Trump wants to just end this war. He doesn't see any other possible outcome. What he doesn't see is significant and important role that Ukrainian drones take in this war. He perhaps doesn't see that 80%, and that's what it is, it's over 80%, or around, at least around that number of casualties on the Russian side that are being due to unmanned aircrafts. He also perhaps missing the rapid change of that technology and how efficient and lethal this technology is at the same time. So that's where change is necessary. Ukraine is very much able to produce the drones necessary to protect itself. What Ukraine lacks is money to scale up this production. And that's where the Europe and America, NATO alliance can lean into and help. NATO can restore its deterrence by adapting to modern warfare. They can learn from Ukraine's rapid drone innovation pipeline. They can invest into co-production of drones, and they can also make sure that Ukraine continues to innovate faster than Russia, and the Ukrainian AI autonomous systems are far more advanced than Russians. We can do so without using any new money. No new money is necessary. We can simply redirect unobligated USAI funds to accelerate this shift. At the moment of this recording, there are about $11 billion of USAI money that is not obligated, meaning there's no contract associated with that sum. So it can be reallocated to be used for drone production. By investing in Ukraine and investing in drone technology, NATO is going to cut dependency on costly, slow-to-build legacy systems, close the gaps with adversaries on drone warfare, positions NATO to deter future wars instead of reacting to them later. So next time you call your senators and representatives, tell them this: warfare has changed forever. Supporting Ukraine is not charity. It is a strategic necessity to restore NATO as credible deterrence force. The only lasting peace is a peace through strength. This is something we insisted from the very beginning of our campaign. From early 2022, we called for the United States to increase military support for Ukraine. Throughout the Biden administration, we asked you guys to sign petitions and make sure that our senators and representatives react and increase military assistance to Ukraine. At the moment, increasing military assistance for Ukraine has to be done through investment in that drone tech, that very drone tech responsible for 80% of all losses for Russians. So please take your time and reach out to your senators and representatives. Thank you.